Hey there, quick question for you. Have you ever had a neighbor who acts like they're the boss of the whole street? Like they think everything needs their approval, even things that don't have anything to do with them? Yeah, me too. Backhand index pointing right, but before we get into this wild story, tell me something. Where are you watching from right now? Drop it in the comments. And hey, if you like stories about people who stand up for themselves, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Trust me, you don't want to miss this one. So let me tell you how it all started. It was a sunny Saturday morning, the kind of morning that feels just right, not too hot, not too cold. The sky was blue with a few fluffy clouds. I was feeling good. I had the whole day off from work, and for once I didn't have anything stressful to do. No emails, no rushing, no errands, just a quiet, peaceful day to myself. I walked outside with my coffee in hand, wearing my favorite hoodie and old sneakers. Birds were chirping in the trees. A few neighbors were out, trimming their bushes or walking their dogs. Everything felt calm and normal. I had just finished installing a small spoiler on the back of my car. Nothing crazy. It wasn't huge or loud. It wasn't shiny or bright. It was just a smooth black spoiler that made my car look a little cooler. I had saved up for it for weeks. I even watched videos online to make sure I installed it the right way. I was proud of it. It looked awesome. I stood there sipping my coffee, staring at my car like it was a masterpiece. And then she appeared. Her name is Karen. Well, not really, but you know the type. Everyone in the neighborhood just calls her Karen now. She walked toward my house like she had something important to do. She was wearing a stiff white shirt and holding a big clipboard. The kind people use when they think they're the boss. In her other hand, she had her phone out like she was already about to call someone. My stomach dropped. I had a bad feeling. Karen always walked like she was on a mission. Her shoes clicked on the pavement. Her mouth was tight like she was chewing on a lemon, and her eyes always squinting like the sun was too bright or like she didn't trust anything she saw. She stopped at the end of my driveway, didn't say hello, didn't smile. She just stared at my car like it had done something wrong. Then she said it. Is that allowed in this neighborhood? She said it loud, like really loud, loud enough that the people across the street could hear her, loud enough that the old man watering his flowers actually looked up and shook his head. I blinked. I didn't even know what to say. It's just a spoiler, I said, trying to stay calm. Karen tilted her head. It doesn't look standard. I'll have to check the rules. She scribbled something on her clipboard. Now let me pause here for a second. I don't live in a fancy gated neighborhood. We have nice houses and clean lawns, sure, but we're not rich or anything. There's no guard at the gate. We don't have a pool or a tennis court. We're just a regular bunch of people who want to live in peace. But Karen acts like she's the queen of everything, like the street is her kingdom and we all have to ask her for permission to breathe. She's not even on the HOA board, not officially anyway, but she pretends like she is. She shows up at meetings. She writes letters. She takes pictures of trash cans left out too long. She even once measured someone's grass and said it was too tall. So yeah, I knew this wasn't going to end with a friendly chat. I stood there holding my coffee, trying to be polite. Karen kept looking at my car, walking around it like she was a detective. She poked the spoiler with one finger and frowned like it had insulted her. I don't think this follows neighborhood guidelines, she said again. But there's nothing in the rules about spoilers, I replied. I had actually checked twice. She didn't like that. Karen clicked her pen. Well, I'll be the judge of that. Then she pulled out her phone and started taking pictures of my car, of my driveway, even of me standing there. I was shocked. Are you serious? I asked. She didn't answer, just kept taking pictures like she was collecting evidence for a crime. That's when I realized Karen wasn't just curious, she was planning something. I felt my heart beating faster, not because I was scared, but because I knew this wasn't over. This wasn't just about a spoiler. Karen needed to feel in control, and now she had decided that my car was the enemy. As she walked away, still typing on her phone, I heard her say something under her breath. I'll take care of this. Take care of what? That's when I knew I had to be ready. Karen wasn't done, she never is. I watched her walk down the street like she had won something, like her mission was complete, but deep down I wasn't too worried. Because what she didn't know, what she never thought to ask, was that she wasn't the only one who could make calls. Let's just say the police were already looking into something else, something with her name on it. But I'll get to that later. The next morning I woke up early. I was still thinking about what happened the day before. I didn't sleep much. Karen's words kept playing in my head. Is that allowed? I'll take care of this. Those words sounded simple, but I knew they were. They were warnings, quiet threats, and I had a feeling something worse was coming. I walked outside, hoping maybe she'd just forget about it. Maybe she was just having a bad day. But no, I was wrong, so very wrong. As soon as I stepped onto my porch, I saw it. A little bright yellow paper taped to my mailbox. It was a warning letter from the HOA. My heart dropped. It said something like, "Your vehicle has been modified in a way that may not follow community rules. Please remove the added spoiler within 72 hours or you may receive a fine." I just stared at it. Not "you must," not "this is against the rules," just "may not follow the rules." They weren't even sure, but they were ready to fine me anyway. I knew right away who sent this in. It had Karen written all over it, not her name, of course, but her actions. She didn't waste any time. And guess what? The HOA president, Mr. Brown, lives 2 houses down from her. They talk almost every day. I've seen them chatting by his mailbox, laughing and nodding like old friends. I had a bad feeling she had already whispered something to him. Later that day, I decided to take a walk. I wanted to clear my head. I also wanted to see if anything else was going on. As I passed Karen's house, I saw her standing in her front yard. She had a little notepad in her hand. Again. She was pointing at my driveway, talking to someone I didn't recognize, a man in a blue polo shirt and shiny shoes. He looked like some kind of HOA guy. They both turned when they saw me, but Karen didn't stop talking. "That's the one," she said loudly. "That car has that strange thing on it. It's not part of the original design." The man nodded and pulled out his phone. I stood there quiet, trying not to show I was angry. I didn't say a word. Karen looked straight at me and smiled, not a nice smile. It was the kind of smile someone gives when they think they've won. Then she turned back to the man and said, "We have to keep this neighborhood looking clean and respectable." My hands were in my pockets and I could feel my fingers tightening into fists. I wasn't going to yell, I wasn't going to cause a scene, but inside I was boiling. I had lived here for 5 years. I always kept my lawn neat. I never played loud music. I helped my neighbor carry groceries last week. I never broke a single rule. And yet, Karen treated me like I was a problem, like I didn't belong. The spoiler didn't make my car look bad. It didn't make noise. It didn't leak oil or block the street. It wasn't even that big. But to her, it was different. And different meant wrong. As I walked past, I heard her say something else, quiet but loud enough for me to catch. People like that always try to change things. People like that. What did that mean? I turned my head slightly, but I didn't speak. I kept walking. My heart was pounding, but I stayed calm. I needed to think. I needed to be smart. Because I knew now this wasn't about a car part. It was about control. Karen wanted to be in charge. She wanted everyone to do things her way. She wanted the world to look the way she liked it. And if something didn't fit that picture, she tried to erase it. Later that night, I sat in my room thinking. I pulled out the HOA rulebook. Yes, we actually had one. It was 32 pages long and full of boring stuff, but I read every word, twice. And guess what? Nowhere, absolutely nowhere, did it say anything about car spoilers being banned. Not once. So why was I getting a warning? Because Karen made a complaint, and sometimes that's all it takes. The next day, I got home from work and found something even worse. Karen had called someone. There was a tow truck parked near my driveway. The man was talking to Mr. Brown. They kept looking at my car, pointing and nodding. I couldn't believe it. Were they really trying to tow my car? I walked over calm but firm. "Excuse me," I said, "why is there a tow truck here?" Mr. Brown turned to me with a fake little smile. "Oh, we're just doing a check. Some vehicles have been parked improperly, and we're making sure all residents are in line with regulations." My car was clearly in my driveway, not on the street, not blocking anything. "It's parked on my property," I said, "and there's nothing in the rules about car spoilers." He opened his mouth to say something, but then paused. I could see it in his eyes. He knew I was right, but he didn't want to admit it. Just then, Karen walked up. She crossed her arms and gave me that same smile from before, that fake, smug smile. "Rules are there for a reason," she said. "This isn't a junkyard." That was the moment I realized something very important. Karen didn't care about the rules. She cared about winning. But she didn't know who she was dealing with. Because what she didn't know was that I had already spoken to someone who could make a big difference in what happened next. I won't spoil it for you just yet, but let's just say Karen was about to get a surprise of her own. Because even though I looked quiet, even though I didn't yell or fight, I wasn't going to let this go. And I wasn't alone. The days that followed were strange. Everything looked normal, but nothing felt normal. I still drove to work each morning. I still waved at a few neighbors. I still mowed my lawn on Saturday. But every time I stepped outside, I could feel it, eyes watching, whispers starting, heads turning. It was like Karen had started a quiet little war, and no one even knew it. One afternoon, I saw a group of people standing by the mailboxes. Karen was with them. She was pointing at a clipboard. Again, she always had that clipboard now, like it gave her power. The others nodded as she talked. One of them glanced at my house. That night, I got a letter. This one was from the HOA again, but it didn't say anything clear. It just said, "Please remember to keep your property in line with the visual standards of the neighborhood." That was it. No details, no rule number, no clear problem. Just words that could mean anything. I knew what they were doing. Karen was trying to get others to join her, maybe even push me out. And she was smart. She didn't yell or scream. She used rules, or at least pretended to. But I didn't say a word, not yet. Instead, I watched. I listened. And I started keeping notes of my own. On Wednesday, I noticed something strange. Karen had two big flower pots in her front yard. They were very pretty, blue and white with bright yellow flowers. But I remembered something from the HOA guidebook. Page 14 said clearly, no outdoor decorations or plants are allowed in front of the main fence unless approved. Guess what? She never asked for approval. I checked. I also noticed her side gate was broken. It leaned to one side and had a rusty latch. That was against Rule 6.2. All fences and gates must be in safe, working condition. I smiled a little when I saw it. Because here's the thing, Karen wanted to play the rule game. But I knew the rules too. And while she was busy trying to get me in trouble, she was breaking rules herself. Now I wasn't mad, I wasn't scared, I was just waiting. A small storm was building, and Karen didn't even see it. Later that week, I stopped by the community office. It was a small building near the pool. Inside, there was a glass window and a lady named Miss Carter who worked at the front desk. She smiled when she saw me. "Can I help you?" "Yes," I said. "I'd like to request a meeting with the board." She blinked. "Is something wrong?" I just smiled. "Not yet." I left her with a folder full of papers, real ones. Pictures of Karen's flower pots, a copy of the rules, a photo of her broken gate, even a list of things she'd said to me. I wasn't going to yell. I was going to show facts. Real, clear, and fair. As I walked back home, I passed by Karen's house. She was outside again, talking on the phone. She saw me. Her eyes narrowed. But I just waved. Calm, kind, like nothing was wrong at all. Because she didn't know what I had just done. And that was the start of something she didn't expect. That weekend, I washed my car in the driveway. It was sunny. The sky was blue. A few kids rode bikes down the street. Music played quietly from a house nearby. And then I saw it, Karen storming out of her house, waving another paper in her hand. She walked straight toward me, her lips tight, her eyes sharp. "You know what?" she said. "You're being very difficult. You think you can just do whatever you want." I stood up, still holding the hose. "I'm just washing my car," I said. "You're ignoring the rules," she snapped. I nodded slowly. "I read the rules, did you?" She froze. I could see something change in her face, just for a second. "You're trying to cause trouble," she said. "No," I said calmly. "I'm just following the rules like everyone should." She didn't have a reply for that. Instead, she turned around and marched back to her house. But I could tell I had hit a nerve. She thought I would break. She thought I would take down the spoiler and give up. But I didn't. Because the truth was, the more she pushed, the stronger I became. And now the board had my folder. Now I wasn't alone. A few days later, something funny happened. Karen's flower pots were gone. Just like that. One morning they were there. That evening they were. Then the gate on the side of her house was fixed. And for the first time in weeks, she didn't smile when she saw me. She looked nervous. She looked tired. Because she had just realized something important. She wasn't in charge anymore. And now she had to follow the same rules she tried to use against me. But it wasn't over yet. Not even close. Because something big was coming. Something that would shake the whole neighborhood. I had kept quiet long enough. And now it was time for the truth to come out. Not just about Karen, but about the HOA too. Because there was one more secret. One that would change everything. It was a bright Monday morning. The sun was up, the birds were singing, and I was standing on my front porch drinking some orange juice. But I wasn't thinking about the sun or the birds. Today was the day. The day everything would change. The HOA had called for a special meeting. They said it was just a friendly reminder about rules, but I knew the truth. Karen had pushed them into it. She wanted them to talk about me in front of the whole neighborhood. She wanted to embarrass me. She thought I would be scared. But she didn't know what I had planned. I had been quiet for weeks. I had listened. I had watched. And now it was time for me to speak. The meeting was at the community clubhouse right next to the tennis courts. I arrived early and sat near the front. People came in slowly, some talking, some whispering. I saw Karen walk in, of course. She was holding her clipboard again. She walked like she was in charge. Her chin was up. Her steps were sharp. She looked around the room like she owned it. She didn't see me at first. Then she did. And her smile disappeared. The room filled up quickly. Almost every chair was taken. Some people even stood near the back. Everyone looked serious. At the front table sat the HOA board members, 3 people with name tags. They looked a little nervous too. "Good evening," said the man in the middle. "We're here to talk about rules and how we can all help make this a better place." Karen stood up before he could say more. "I think we all know why we're really here," she said loudly. "It's about the man with the car spoiler. It looks terrible. It doesn't match the neighborhood. I've gotten complaints." She held up a few pieces of paper. "People want it removed," she said. "It's not right." A few folks nodded, others stayed quiet. Then the man at the table nodded to me. "Would you like to say something?" I stood up. I looked around the room. I didn't speak right away. I waited. Just a few seconds. But it felt longer. Then I said, "Thank you for letting me speak. I'll keep it simple." I reached into my bag and pulled out a folder. Inside were photos, letters, and copies of the HOA rule book. First, I said, "I want to say I love living here, but I believe rules should be fair, and they should apply to everyone." I showed a photo of Karen's old flower pots. "These were in front of a home for weeks," I said. "That's not allowed without asking." People looked surprised, some whispered. I held up a paper. She didn't ask. I showed another photo. "This is a broken gate. Rule 6.2 says all fences and gates must be safe. This one was for a long time." Karen's face turned red. She looked at the floor. "But no one said anything about those things," I said. I paused and looked straight at the board. "Yet I got letters about my car, letters with no clear rule numbers, just opinions." I looked around the room again. "My car is clean, it's safe, it's parked the right way. The spoiler, it's legal. There's no rule against it, not one." The board members looked at each other. The man at the table cleared his throat. "He's right," he said. "There's no current rule that bans car spoilers." A woman in the crowd raised her hand. "So why are we even here?" That's when it happened. That's when I said the part that changed everything. I reached into my bag one more time and pulled out a badge. That's right. A real one. Police issued. Because I'm not just a neighbor with a car. I'm a city officer. Not just any officer, I'm a detective. And for the past few weeks, I hadn't just been watching Karen. I'd been watching the HOA board. See, Karen wasn't the only one bending the rules. The HOA had sent letters that didn't follow real rules. They'd used fake complaints. They made people feel small. So I'd been working with the city. Taking notes. Gathering proof. Waiting for this moment. I showed a letter from the city attorney. It said, after reviewing the case, we find that certain HOA actions may not follow state housing laws. Further investigation is underway. You could hear a pin drop. No one said a word. Karen slowly sat down. She didn't say anything else that day. The board members looked stunned. One lady in the back clapped softly. Then another person joined in. Soon the whole room was clapping. Not loud. Not wild. Just quiet claps of respect. For truth. For fairness. For standing up not by yelling but by showing the facts. After that meeting, everything changed. Karen didn't bother me anymore. She didn't knock on my door, she didn't call the HOA, she didn't wave her clipboard around. She just stayed quiet. The HOA also changed. They started using clear rules, real ones. They stopped sending strange letters. They even started asking neighbors for ideas. And me, I just went back to my life. I washed my car on Saturdays, I smiled at neighbors, I enjoyed the peace. Because I didn't want to cause drama. I just wanted to live here. Like everyone else. Fair and free. After the big meeting at the clubhouse, everything felt different. The air felt lighter. The neighbors smiled more. People who had never talked to me before were now waving and saying hello when they passed by. Some even stopped to say thank you. I didn't expect that, but it felt nice. It felt like they were finally seeing me for who I really was, not just the guy with the car spoiler, but someone who stood up for what was right. But let me tell you what happened next. Because justice didn't stop at just one meeting. No, it kept going, and it made sure that the people who tried to act like they were the boss, like Karen and the HOA board, learned that rules apply to them too. A week after the meeting, a letter came in the mail. This time it wasn't from the HOA. It was from the city. The letter explained that an official investigation had started. It said that the HOA might have broken state laws. Some of the rules they used weren't real rules at all. They had made them up or twisted them to scare people. Turns out they had done this not just to me, but to other neighbors too. Like Mrs. Lopez, who had flowers hanging on her porch. The HOA told her to take them down because they didn't match the neighborhood, but there was no rule about flower pots. None. Or Mr. Jackson, who got a letter saying he had too many wind chimes. Again, no real rule, just someone's personal opinion. The city started asking questions. Real questions. And the HOA didn't have good answers. One board member, Mr. Green, quit right away. He said he didn't want to be part of something unfair. That was the first real change. Then the city made a rule of their own. The HOA had to hold a new vote to choose fresh board members, people who would be honest, people who would treat everyone with respect. So the neighbors came together and voted. This time, the people picked weren't just friends of Karen. They were folks from all over the neighborhood. A single mom. A retired teacher. A guy who always helps mow the grass on weekends. They were fair, kind, and followed the real rule book, not just what someone with a clipboard wanted. Now let's talk about Karen. Because yes, she faced real consequences too. The city reviewed all the reports I had collected. They looked at the letters she had sent out, the photos she had taken of people's homes without asking, and the times she stood outside yelling at neighbors. One neighbor even recorded her shouting at a teenager for playing music too loud, even though it was a weekend afternoon and not even that loud. The city didn't like that. They called it harassment. She also put up a short fence near her yard that wasn't allowed. She didn't ask the HOA. She didn't ask the city. She just did it. Well, the city ordered her to take it down. And they gave her a fine. It wasn't a small fine either. Over $1,200. She tried to argue, of course. She even showed up at City Hall with her clipboard. But this time no one listened. Her voice wasn't louder than the law. Her clipboard wasn't more powerful than the truth. She took down the fence a week later. After that, Karen stayed quiet. She still lived in the neighborhood, but she didn't tell people what to do anymore. She didn't walk around acting like she was the queen of the block. She kept to herself, and honestly, that was fine with me. With a new HOA board and a quiet Karen, the whole street started to feel better. People added little lights to their porches. Families painted their fences with fun colors. Kids rode bikes without getting told to be quiet. And guess what? My car spoiler. Still there. Still shiny. Still legal. And no one complained. Not even once. The best part was that people started to take pride in their homes, not because they were scared of letters, but because they wanted to. It wasn't just about rules anymore. It was about respect. As for me, I didn't want praise. I didn't want attention. I just wanted peace. But this whole thing taught me something important. Sometimes being quiet is okay. But sometimes you have to speak up. Even if your voice shakes. Even if people roll their eyes. Even if someone with a clipboard thinks they know more. You stand your ground. You gather the truths. And you let the truth speak for itself. Because in the end, the truth is always stronger. Just in case you're wondering. The new HOA board made a fair set of rules. They even made a little book with pictures so everyone could understand them easily. Karen, she stopped coming to meetings, but she did say hello to me once. A short hi, not much, but it was something. The neighborhood, happier than ever. Kids laugh, people wave. Even the mailman said he noticed the change. And me, I still have my car, I still love my home, and I still drink orange juice on my porch, but now I do it with a smile. Because I know that sometimes, even when things seem unfair, justice finds a way. Not through yelling. Not through fighting. But through truth. Through calm. Through standing tall even when others try to push you down. You know, when this all started, I didn't want to fight. I didn't want to stand in front of people. I didn't want to talk about laws or rules. I just wanted to live in peace, enjoy my home, take care of my things, and say hello to my neighbors. That's it. I never asked for trouble. I didn't try to break rules. But sometimes trouble knocks on your door even when you didn't invite it. And sometimes the people causing trouble don't look like bullies. They wear nice clothes, they carry clipboards, they smile while saying mean things. That's what I learned about Karen. She didn't yell at first. She didn't scream in the beginning. She whispered behind my back. She made little comments. She smiled while writing complaint letters. She told other neighbors stories about me that weren't true. She looked like someone in charge, but really, she was just someone trying to feel powerful by making others feel small. And that's the lesson I want to leave with you. Some people talk loud. They walk fast. They stand tall. They point fingers. But inside they are scared. They fear things they don't understand. They get upset when they don't get their way. They act like the boss even when they're not. They try to control others so they don't feel weak. But that's not real strength. That's fear hiding in a costume. That's control pretending to be leadership. True strength is quiet. It waits. It watches. It stands calm while the storm passes. And when the time is right, it speaks the truth. Not with shouting, not with blame, but with facts, proof, and kindness. I didn't win because I yelled louder. I didn't win because I had more friends. I didn't win because I fought back with anger. I won because I stayed calm. I wrote things down. I followed the rules. I stayed kind. Even when others were not. Even when people laughed at me. Even when letters kept coming and cameras pointed at my house. I stayed kind. That doesn't mean I stayed silent. But I picked my time to speak. And when I did, the truth was ready. It was like opening a window in a dark room. Suddenly everyone could see clearly. And the people who were hiding behind lies had nowhere left to run. If you're watching this and thinking, I could never do what you did, let me tell you something. Yes, you can. You don't need to be the loudest. You don't need to be the strongest. You don't need to know all the rules. You just need to pay attention. You need to know what's fair. You need to trust your gut. If something feels wrong, it probably is. And if someone tries to make you feel small, it says more about them than about you. You can stand up without shouting. You can be strong and soft at the same time. You can be quiet and still be brave. People looked at me and saw just a regular guy with a cool car. They didn't know I had read the full HOA rule book. They didn't know I had worked for the city years ago. They didn't know I had friends in the zoning office. They didn't know I understood more than I let on. Karen didn't ask, she just assumed. She thought she knew everything. She thought the rules didn't apply to her. She thought no one would stand up to her. But guess what? She was wrong. Because sometimes the person you ignore is the one who knows the truth. Sometimes the person you think is weak is just waiting for the right time. It's easy to demand respect. It's harder to earn it. Karen demanded it. She wanted people to follow her without asking why. She gave orders and expected people to obey. But that's not respect, that's fear. Real respect happens when people choose to listen to you. When people trust you because you are fair. When people know you care about them. When you speak the truth, even when it's hard. That's how you earn respect. And once you earn it, you don't need to shout. Your voice becomes strong on its own. So if you're still watching and maybe you're going through something like this right now, I want you to remember these things. 1. You don't need to change who you are to stand up for what's right. 2. You can stay calm and still win. 3. You don't need to be mean to be strong. 4. People who act like the boss usually are. 5. Truth takes time, but it always shows up. 6. Respect can't be forced, it has to be earned. Maybe your neighbor is like Karen. Maybe your boss is unfair. Maybe your teacher treats you badly. Maybe someone in your family puts you down. Whatever it is, don't let it break you. You are stronger than you think, even when no one sees it yet. If this story made you think even just a little, then I've done my job. Because sometimes one story is enough to help someone stand up for themselves. Sometimes one voice can make others speak up too. So if you're facing something unfair, don't give up. Look for the truth. Gather your facts. Find your calm. And when you're ready, speak. Because the world doesn't change all at once. It changes one brave person at a time. And maybe, just maybe, that person is you.